preseason football. Today was the official day for NFL teams to trim down their roster size to officially hit that 53-man roster mark, which means that the NFL regular season is right around the corner. This is the Burgundy Gold review. I'm Jess of HGTR Nation, of course, joined by Sam of WSH Football 365. There's some surprising cuts. There's some interesting stackings of positional groups of Washington's roster that we're going to be looking over. But, there was a lot of cuts coming in this morning, coming in the past couple of days. Sam, right off the bat, what's some stuff that sticks out to you?
Right off the bat, I noticed the 4 tight ends. It's not something that I expected, but it isn't something that I didn't consider, if you know what I'm saying. And also the obvious one in Jimmy Moreland. He's a people's corner. Everybody loved him, but I think at the end he ended up making more plays in practice than he did on the field. And in the emergence of St. Juice allowed them to push Fuller to the inside, and that allowed them to make him expendable. So you hate to see Moreland go. I'm not really sure if they're going to try to get him back on the practice squad or not. They did waive him with the injury designation, which has just been tweeted out by Ian Rappaport, I believe, as a bruised knee, which is very vague. So if they're trying to spin something in his direction, that is yet to be determined. But as of right now, Jimmy Moreland probably is the surprise thing. AGG is another one that, I thought he was pretty solid, that he had the wide receiver 6 spot locked down, but it just goes to show you that you really don't know what the coaches are thinking. And AGG is also out on waivers right now.
Jimmy Moreland's definitely the biggest thing that came in the news this morning. Starter for the past 2 years. I think he started every game in 2019. Could be wrong. But regardless, a guy on your defense who's gotten a lot of run in 2019 and 2020. And I don't think we really had any dialogue at all regarding the possibility of Moreland getting cut. Obviously, we know St. Juice has been bursting onto the scene a lot more than expected. Definitely has proven me wrong thus far. That was a draft pick I was a bit skeptical on way back in May. But, this feels exactly like how the Morgan Moses situation played out. They have a lot of depth at the singular position, like they did with offensive tackle right after the draft. And then, not that Moreland's a veteran, he's still 25, 26 years old, but they cut a guy who's been at that position for a while in favor of whoever they just brought in. St. Juice is, unless Fuller's getting kicked inside and St. Juice is going to be starting on the outside, but literally just played out like that, except at corner now instead of offensive tackle. So, like when the Moses situation happened, I do wonder if it was premature. It's clear they want to get their young guys out there, start really making their own impact with the guys they've just invested in. But, the Moses thing seems to be playing out so far so good with Cosme, so we'll have to see if St. Juice is really all that. But it just screams how much confidence they have in that selection to be – because, like you said, Moreland is a guy who it feels like we were hearing more tweets about him in practice than we were in the game. I think he only had one pass deflection, or at least pass breakup in 2020, was not really getting around the ball as much as he was kind of advertised as. So we'll have to see. Like you said, Rappaport just tweeted out bruised knee. I think Ben Standig also responded to that, saying Moreland could be ready to go by week 1. We'll have to see if he lands back on the team's IR or not. I think there's a solid probability that there's another team in the NFL that would like Jimmy Moreland on their roster. So we'll just have to see with that one. But that definitely was the most surprising news of the day for me.
Rivera and company only decided to keep 4 linebackers, so Davis, Holcomb, Bostic, and Hudson. It's a little bit concerning, but also did mention in his press conference that they were not done with the position group, so they must have saw something that they really didn't like in the Ravens game, giving up that amount of points to the Ravens offense. That just shows the lack of depth that was at the position, and maybe they feel like there's some cuts out there that they can get their hands on, after another team lets them go. Because right now they sit at 4, and they don't really have a whole lot of people that can slide over. They're saying Shaka Toney could play some linebacker, but realistically, he's very young. He's very raw. I'm not sure how much you can really rely on him there. So where they're sitting at, they're just sitting with 4. So you got to think that they got to be making at least some sort of move there. What are your thoughts, Jess?
I do think we'll see a linebacker acquisition happen, whether that's like a waiver claim or picking up a free agent who's been sitting around for a while, or maybe like a trade for somebody who's about to get cut. I'm not really sure, but I do think we'll probably see maybe a move there, maybe two. But I think I saw a good point made on Twitter today that this team can roll with four linebackers because who else behind those top four was really worth knocking somebody else off the roster for? I mean, Jared Norris, Jordan Kuna, I can't pronounce his last name, but Jordan K at linebacker. Those are the two guys cut today. David Mayo as well. I mean, those are all guys you can stash in your practice squad if needed. Like those, there was no one that was really of more value than just to keeping, let's say, six linebackers for the sake of six linebackers, but like it's going to cost you, let's say, Shaka Tony and Ricky Seals Jones. It's like there was no one that really proved through those preseason games that they had to bulk up that position. So I do think we'll see an acquisition there, going in with four linebackers, even considering how questionable our linebacker group is at the moment, is a bold move. So it just seems like we're going to see a move there.
Yeah, at least a move, and they also have the luxury of having Cameron Curl and Landon Collins in a pretty deep secondary behind them, to where they can go into like nickel and dime situations, and they won't be using those linebackers as much. They can like replace them with defensive backs. So be interesting to see what they're going to do there.
Something I wanted to touch on too is this team better stay healthy because they're sacked at depth at some positions, and at other positions, they have to hope and pray that Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, Cole Holcomb, those guys stay healthy because the depth is skimpy and thin and worrying at those positions. At running back, I didn't think they were going to knock Barber off. Not that, I think knocking Barber off is an okay decision, but it leaves you with, when Gibson got hurt last year, there was no running game. Between McKissick and Barber, and Patterson, he lit it up in the preseason, of course, but how much of an impact are we expecting in the regular season from him? So if Gibson goes down, which he already has in a season before, the running back room is shot. Looking at the tight end group, it's, beating a dead horse at this point, but no Logan Thomas, and that's by far the worst tight end group in the NFL. And then linebacker, we just touched on them having four. Probably we'll see an acquisition there, but they are banking on their guys staying healthy at those specific spots.
It's easy to get caught up in the fast growth of this team, and it's okay to be excited about it, but the simple fact is that they're not all the way there yet to where you can feel totally confident. And that was evident in the Ravens game. Yes, the Ravens, did play some of their starters, but at the end of the game, still, like, you want to see some fight put up towards their team, and that's a testament towards the type of depth that they have and the depth that we don't at certain positions. And as you touched on a running back, that is a concern. I don't Having a good running back is awesome, and it's great. A great asset to the team, and I think Antonio Gibson is going to be very good if he stays healthy. And yes, he does need to stay healthy. I don't think Peyton Barber was worth a roster spot for a guy that's going to get you those 2 yards, because I think there's enough scrap heap running backs to where if you have that type of injury or that type of need, you're going to be able to find something. And I believe that there's good enough playmakers on this offense now to where they can supplement that in other areas. You obviously don't want to lose the main factor of your run game, but I don't think it's going to be a complete knife in the back of the offense if it happens, or they're not going to be able to find somebody to fall forward for 2 yards. And in the circumstance of tight end, that is extremely concerning. I don't know what they're going to do at that position, to be honest with you. Maybe we'll have some emergence like we did, with Logan Thomas last year. But going into last year, you at least expected Logan Thomas to be good because they were talking him up as, he's got a lot of talent, this, that, and the other. The only thing you're hearing out of the tight end group really this year is that John Bates, is fundamentally sound, but he's slow, and that Samus Reyes is very, very athletically gifted, but has a long way to go. That's not exactly promising for somebody that, if Logan Thomas were to go down. That being said, maybe we'll get a couple star emergences or some uncut gems that we haven't, seen in training camp or the preseason, and that help the roster and help the roster depth. If not, it'll be looking like still next year before this team is really ready to like truly compete and work through injuries.
I mean, you make a good point there. There's probably going to be some emergence by someone at one of these positions somewhere on roster. I mean, last year, no one thought Logan Thomas was going to catch 80 balls and 700 yards. And now we've got, a secured tight end spot there. So probably somebody will step up, whether it be, we get more from J.D. McKissick in the running game, one of the backup tight ends shows a flash, Cleek Hudson takes a step, or Jamin Davis shows a bit more of an impact than we've seen in the preseason thus far. I mean, even that defensive end, too, I forgot to mention that one, but behind Young and Sweat, you're playing three guys. I mean, you've got Tony, Toohill, and Smith Williams. I think they probably have about 5 games of combined NFL experience between all three of them. I mean, behind your 2 superstar defensive ends. So it's like they've invested in young guys clearly with the roster, but now with how much reliance they've kind of put on getting young with the roster and getting their own guys in there, we kind of need to see a bit more, or there's a bit more pressure early on for an impact there if we're not going to see some kind of veteran acquisition.
I wonder, I was thinking about this the other day, and I wonder if we're in the same mindset with this team as Ron Rivera is with this team. I feel like we might be 1 year ahead of where Ron's mindset is with this team right now. And he's been here, this is his second year, and we're a fan base that's starved for success. We haven't had much, if any. And I wonder if we're being a little hasty and expecting the team to be a true competitor this year, which in areas they look like they can be. But I often wonder, is Ron like maybe holding back a little bit, or not holding back, but holding back money, getting free agent guys off the street that could help plug holes in and make this team a more competitive team. And I wonder if he's just saving that money to see if he has younger depth before to build for 1 more year is what I'm trying to say, is maybe that we're expecting this to be our year when in reality our year is next year in Ron Rivera's head, if that makes sense.
That does. I mean, you can look at the roster, and obviously the ideal scenario is what you just painted, that Rivera holds out and some of these young guys start showing right off the bat that faith was well put into them, that they can make an impact consistently as a rotational piece on the roster. But right now, and obviously the rosters, I mean, there's holes every year. It's the only complete rosters are like the Super Bowl champs, and even they have flaws with their own ones. So obviously we're getting nitpicky here, but there are depth issues across the board that we are looking to be resolved. And, injuries happen every year. I mean, maybe we'll have injuries at positions that aren't any of these ones, and depth there will hold it over for the remainder of the 2021 season. But we'll just have to see. I mean, the roster's still a little bit fluid right now. I think by this time next week is when we'll really have a solidified 53-man roster, because we'll be in game prep for the Chargers by then. So we'll just have to see what kind of stuff circulates, what kind of names pop up, what kind of little additions here or there they make, if any, over the next few days.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned free agents, because just as we're sitting here, Pro Football Network pops up on my Twitter, and Tony Pauline reports that the New York Jets and Washington football team are currently showing the most interest in linebacker Bednarik McKinley. Bednarik McKinney. I am so sorry for butchering that name. I'm having a hard time. But yeah, so he's a pretty credible source. That does, maybe tell me that they are out looking for some veteran acquisitions to plug some holes. So we'll have to wait and see. I think we're far from a finished product of a roster in week 1.
Bednarik McKinney, that would be a nice addition, I'd say. I'd assume it'd be for something in like the 1 year, 3 to 5 million range. I'd assume, since he just got released from a big contract. But yeah, that's something I'd be in favor of. I like that move right there.
I would not hate that at all.
So who saw this coming on roster though? 7 wide receivers and no Antonio Gandy Golden or Kelvin Harmon.
Not me at all. That is something I can't even say I vaguely considered. I thought it would either be Milne or Carter or Gandy Golden. Not this combination for sure. I think Milne solidified his spot with that really nice sideline grab from Kyle Allen this past weekend against Baltimore, and he really showed out. He got a lot of praise as camp went on. DeAndre Carter, I think, was mostly kept for special teams purposes, but has been praised as for his offensive abilities in camp. So very surprising group of players there.
Over the summer, I definitely remember shooting down the possibility of Washington keeping 7 wide receivers. I remember my counterpoint to that was that J.D. McKissic caught 80 balls last year, and they want to throw it to Antonio Gibson a heck of a lot more this year. And you're already getting a ton of targets to Terry McLaurin, Curtis, Sims, Brown, Humphreys. Thomas is getting a lot of looks this year. So I didn't think there's really a possibility of keeping 7 just because it felt excessive. But if they did, I think I remember saying it would be for the sake of keeping guys like Kelvin Harmon or Antonio Gandy Golden, who, although disappointing, you just invested a 4th-round pick into and have to at least let develop some. But neither of those, well, they did keep the 7 wide receivers, but not how I thought. Milne, like you said, he's probably one of between Milne or Carter are going to be inactive on game day. I think they really got to like DeAndre Carter on special teams. We didn't get to see much return action from him in the preseason. Milne obviously is probably worth a bit more than what the team has invested in him for a 7th-round pick. Probably a little bit more defined or a little bit more developed and polished Trey Quinn, I would say. Not to put that label on him by any means, but I just think they liked Milne so much and he's on a reasonable 4-year rookie contract. They don't want to, void that deal. But Carter, I thought he was going to be a practice squad guy, but because he's been bouncing around teams his whole career. So I'm really interested to see what they really like about him if we get to see some return action there.
It does kind of concern me that I heard someone say the other day that he has like 6 return fumbles since 2019. So hopefully he cleans that up because we were trying to figure that out with Steven Sims Jr. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. Rivera did say that he wanted a veteran as part of the returner group, so I think that factors in there. We'll just have to wait it out and see what happens. Maybe it turns out to be a good returner for us and the guy that we've been looking for, for quite a while.
One of the last points I really wanted to touch on was after today's cuts, the 2019 draft class is looking very thin from what they came in as. I think the only guys left, and all 3 of them are great players that are left between Holcomb, Terry, and Montez Sweat. But with the cuts of Wes Martin and Jimmy Moreland today, Kelvin Harmon a few weeks ago, that draft class went, I remember thinking we got one of the best draft class when that happened. And then 3 guys are left from it in 2 years.
Things just changed so fast, so fast. You look back a year and a half ago, and Bruce Allen was still here. You look at every aspect of this team, and so much has changed. Just hopefully, within the next couple of years, we stop seeing so much of an open or a revolving door, and start to see people staying here longer and longer, and good fortune and good spirits. So, yeah. Interesting 53-man roster. I'm kind of glad that it's over and all the speculation can be done. It'll be interesting to see if they bring in any more free agents. Heaven forbid any competition for Dustin Hopkins if he continues to struggle. Washington football team, if you're listening, the Ravens did just release their backup kicker. That'd be great if we could give them a look. But I digress. Jess, do you have anything else left to say about the roster cutdowns and how the team is shaping up for the 2021 season?
I'm hoping we can see a few. That McKinney thing would be a really nice move, in my opinion. I'm hoping we can see something like that, or just some more acquisitions at some of the depth spots we definitely mentioned. But it's a good roster. It's a lot better than last year. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about it. They still have plenty of talent on the team. And regular season football is coming up. It's hard not to get excited.
Yeah, overall, you just want to see improvement. I don't expect them to go out and win the Super Bowl this year, but I do expect them to, show me a better product than they put on the field last year. And week one came really fast, and it's football season, and I'm ready to rock. So anyway, that's all we have for you this time, guys. And thank you so much for tuning in. And tune in next week as we start our 2 times a week pods. We'll have a pregame and a postgame pod for you every single week of the 17-game regular season. My name's Sam of WSH Football 365, and that's Jess of HTTDR.nation. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our YouTube and follow us on all platforms where you can find podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Go football team.